So friends, while our soldiers are fighting to secure our future, I lead the fight at the United Nations, the House of Lies, to combat the delegitimization of our just war against terror in Gaza. We see that the UN has completely lost its moral compass. Can you believe that up until today, it's a fact, the UN has not even condemned Hamas for the October 7th massacre? The Security Council has not held even one discussion on releasing the hostages. Shame on the UN. Shame on the UN. However, the UN hasn't always been like this. Some of you remember it, and that in 1947, the UN voted in favor of the establishment of a Jewish state. So, what happened? How did the UN become so hostile? The answer is very simple. The political makeup of the UN has changed dramatically throughout the years. Today, it is so distorted that it can no longer fulfill its founding purpose to prevent atrocities and wars and defend human rights. In 1947, there were only 57 member states, countries in the United Nations, and they shared similar ideals, similar values. Today, there are 193 countries at the United Nations, and the institution is composed completely different. I'll give you a few examples. Today, there is a large automatic majority against Israel because 56 countries, nearly 1/3 of the United Nations member states are Muslim countries. And they vote on most issues as part of a bloc, an anti-Israel bloc. This explains the hundreds of anti-Israel resolutions at the UN. And listen to this. More than half of the member states of the UN are not even democracies. Can you imagine? More than half. In the UN General Assembly, democracies like the United States of America, you have the same voting power as dictatorships like Iran or Syria. And friends, this distorted makeup leads to disastrous outcomes. I'll give you a few examples. Iran, the #1 global sponsor of terror, was elected recently to chair a human rights forum. Yes, it's not a joke, Google it. Saudi Arabia was recently elected, to lead the Commission on the Status of Women. You can't make this stuff up, seriously. With so many Muslim countries and non-democratic countries, the result is an automatic anti-Israel majority. The UN has become a weapon in the hands of dictators and terrorists. And listen to the numbers. Israel represents, we are less than 10 million people, so we represent approximately 1% of the world population, okay? Yet, can you guess how many condemnations we receive every year of all the UN's condemnations? 70% of the UN's condemnations, only against Israel. So UN resolutions go so far as to deny our connection to the holiest site for Jews, the Temple Mount. So, what do? How do I fight there? So my strategy is to expose, as you've seen, the hypocrisy and lies of our detractors. I know that I am defending the most moral country in the world. Yeah. I know it. This is why I always keep my head raised high and I always go on the offensive. Always. When the Secretary General ignored the suffering of the hostages, I immediately called for his resignation. When the Security Council refused to condemn the massacre, the October 7th massacre, I donned a yellow star like during the Holocaust to remind them of the shame of their silence and to send the message that never again is now. And when the UN rolled out the red carpet for Iran's president, Raisi, the butcher of Tehran, I held up a sign demanding freedom for Iranian women during his speech. By the way, ridiculously, I don't know if you saw it in the video, the UN is so morally bankrupt that I was detained for standing up for human rights in the face of a brutal dictator. And when the UN called for a ceasefire, they passed few resolutions that will keep Hamas in power. I exposed Yahya Sinwar's, the head of Hamas, phone number and told them that if they want a real ceasefire, they should call him and demand that he turns himself in and release our hostages. That's how you get a real ceasefire. Two weeks ago, the UN's last example. 2 weeks ago, the UN's joke of an international court of justice declared that the Jewish people's presence in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria is illegal. Yeah. They called Jews occupiers in our ancestral homeland. That's the UN. What more should I say to get the world to understand that the UN must be defunded and replaced? Defunded. Defund the UN.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.